In this video, I'm gonna show you 5 easy Minecraft XP farms that will give you tons of levels super fast, but also many important resources for your survival world. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, so I want to start out with a farm that is so simple and easy, you can literally build it in just 1 minute. I'm not exaggerating. Here's my ultra simple chicken XP farm. These are the materials that we need, and now let's go. The way we build this is very easy. We start out by placing down a double chest and then 4 hoppers all pointing into the chest. On top of these hoppers, we're now going to place down slabs, and around the slabs, we're going to make 1 ring of temporary blocks. I'm personally using dirt for this. Now, on top of these temporary blocks, we're now going to place 2 layers of normal building blocks. I personally use wood for this, but you can literally use anything you like. And once that's done, we're going to go down again and remove the temporary dirt blocks. We don't need them anymore. Next, place down trapdoors under the building blocks we just made, because this way, the gap in between is going to be so small that even baby chickens can't get out. Now, it's time to actually get the chickens into the farm. To do that, all we need to do is go on top of the farm and then just throw a bunch of eggs into the hole. If you want and have enough eggs, you can spawn as many of these baby chickens as you like. More is of course always better, but technically you really only need 2 and then can breed your chicken population out of those. Anyway, once you have enough baby chickens in the farm, you're now going to place fences like this here and remove the top layer of the building blocks around them. This way, none of the chickens can get out on top, but you can still access all of them. The way this farm works is incredibly simple. All you gotta do is bring a bunch of seeds and then feed them to the chickens to breed them, like I do right here, and for this breeding process, you will then gain experience. Because of the fact that there's a limit on how many chickens can stand on 1 block at the same time, this means at some point, your breeding will fill up this chicken chamber so much that some of them will start dying automatically, which will then in turn produce feathers and meat for you at the same time. Of course, just breeding a couple of chickens is not going to give you massive amounts of levels, but hey, who said you only have to build 1 of those chambers? You can essentially just copy-paste this entire farm as often as you want, and at some point, all that breeding is going to give you a ton of levels. By the way, you can of course also build this whole farm with any other type of animal. I just think that chickens are the easiest because they only need seeds to breed, and it's also super easy to get them into the farm by just throwing in some eggs. And by the way, if you could leave a quick like for the video, that would be super nice because it helps me big time with the YouTube algorithm. So thank you so much for your support. Okay, so the next farm on today's list is actually a 2-in-1 pack, but they're not only great for experience, they also give you infinite bone meal, emeralds, and fuel for your furnaces at the same time. I'm going to show you both now, starting out with a kelp XP farm, for which we need these materials right here to build it. First of all, we start out by placing a row of smokers. You can really make it as long as you want. I personally in this example am just going to use 8. Then, on top of these smokers, we're going to place a row of hoppers through which we're later going to fill them up. And naturally, that of course means we're also going to make a second row of hoppers behind them through which we're going to fill them with fuel. For this fuel, you're now going to place a row of chests or barrels on top of the back hoppers and fill them up with coal, lava buckets, or whatever your heart desires. On the left and the right side now, we're going to build 2 small walls to just, close up the whole design on the sides. Up next, place a row of chop slabs over the chests that we put the coal in a way that you can still open and access them. You're then going to place a second row of hoppers, just like this. Next, place another row of building blocks on the back like you see right here, followed by 1 more on top of that. The whole thing should now somewhat look like this. On top of this little wall, you're now going to place 1 row of pistons with the wooden side facing towards the front. On top of these pistons, we're now going to position 1 row of observers, with the observer part also pointing to the front and the redstone end to the back. You can now close up the whole walls to the side again. Up next, we need a little bit of redstone, but don't worry, it's very darn simple. Just make another row of building blocks like this under the observers, and then place 1 line of redstone on top to connect all the observers with the pistons. Just as a quick side note here, When we build sugarcane farms, which are very similar, we usually do it the other way around to make it that each observer can trigger each piston individually and not all at once. However, in a kelp farm, this individual piston triggering would make it that the farm at some point just stops working. It's got to do with how kelp works, and I don't want to get too much into the details here. Just saying, for kelp farms, we want to make sure that all pistons get always triggered at the same time. Finally, we place one more layer of normal building blocks on top, and technically, you could now fill it up with water, place the kelp, and be finished. For the sake of this video though, I'm quickly also going to show you how you can expand the farm even further. All you gotta do is repeat the beginning steps by placing another row of building blocks on the back, followed by a small wall onto which you, again, will place down the pistons, followed by the observers, close the walls to the side, put the redstone on the back, and so on and so forth. If you want, you can technically give your farm as many layers as you like. For this video though, I'm gonna keep it at 3. And this right here is how the farm would look like with 3 layers. Now, all we gotta do is fill in water at the top of the farm like I show right here, and then we can start placing our kelp at the bottom of the pistons for all 3 layers. To avoid that your farm becomes an absolute mess like this one, we're now also going to give it a nice glass front so that the water doesn't run out. As the last step then, we're going to put a roof on top, for which I personally use slabs so that no monsters can spawn on top of here. This farm now bulk produces a bunch of kelp, which will be automatically picked up by the hoppers and filled into the smokers, which turn it into dried kelp. When you then take it out of the furnace, you will not only gain experience for it, but you can turn that dry kelp also into kelp blocks, which in and of themselves are again great fuel for all types of furnaces. Now, while this kelp XP farm is nice and dandy, there is one big problem with it. That is that kelp gives barely any experience. To be more precise, for each kelp that you take out of the furnace, you're only gonna get 0.1 XP. However, what most players don't know is that there's a much more efficient way to cook items for experience, which, especially on Java, will give you 10 times as much XP as kelp. What I'm talking about are cactus farms, cooking cactus into green dye. And here is how you make a nice and easy one of them. These are the materials that you need, and now let's start with the build. Starting out, we do by making an 11 by 11 square with normal building blocks on the ground. Inside of this, we're going to place down sand blocks just like I do right here, leaving a 1 block gap to all sides. Then make a 3 block deep hole right in the middle and dig yourself a little trench like I do right here to get in and out of the farm later. Also, place down a collection chest and then a hopper pointing into it. This is where the cactus is later going to be washed into. Next, what you want to do is place down fence posts 3 blocks in the air exactly in the positions that you see in the background right here. If you did it right, then it should look somewhat like this now, and it will make it that when the cacti grow higher, they automatically break and fall down. And speaking of cacti, now would be the time to place down cactus blocks on top of all the sand that we laid out. And once that's done, place down water in all 4 corners of the farm. The water will later wash all the cactus blocks into our collection system. And now, all that's left to do is a wall all around the whole thing. I personally use glass, but you could take whichever block you like. Oh, and by the way, you don't only have to make 1 layer like this. You could make a whole cactus tower to massively increase the rates. In order to do that, just place a bunch of top slabs like I do right here, leave the hole in the middle open, and repeat the entire process on top. And then finally, one thing you can do to automate it even further is, instead of the chest just collecting the cacti, you can also just place a furnace directly that will automatically turn the cacti into green dye. You can then take them out, gain the experience, and sell the green dye off to a shepherd villager to basically gain infinite emeralds. Oh, and just in case you want to see more videos on great Minecraft farms with simple explanations, then you might want to think about maybe leaving the channel a sub, because I have so much more to share with you. Welcome to the crew! Alright, the farms that we talked about so far were pretty simple. So up next, let's get a bit more efficient by crafting the classic and easy mob XP farm. But no, this is not your standard watercross design. I've actually modified it a little bit to give it higher rates while still being very easy to build. These are the materials that you need, and now let's take a look at it. First of all, just like with most other Mob XP farms, also this one needs to be built 128 blocks over the ground to ensure the best spawn rates. So place down 2 stacks of scaffolding in one big tower. We then climb all the way to the top, and right here, we're gonna build a little platform to stand on. It really doesn't need to be big, I usually just make it 4 by 8 or something. On one side of this platform, we're now gonna place a double chest for the mob loot that we're of course gonna get, followed by 4 hoppers all pointing into the chest. On top of these hoppers, we're now gonna place down carpets, which will make it that later the experience points can't get stuck in the hoppers. Then, we want to build a ring of building blocks around the base of the hoppers, and then close up the front of the farm with 2 blocks and slabs like this, so that there's a little bit of a gap over the chest, which will allow us to open it up and also attack the mobs through this. After that, what we need to do is make this whole thing into a tower, which is exactly 20 blocks tall from the base of the platform. Once this tower is finished, the next step is to place down stairs, like I show right here in the background, in a way that the entire top of the tower is covered with them. We're then gonna build out 4 extensions to all 4 sides, with 7 building blocks in each direction. Once that's done, fill the areas in the corners to have this nice square-shaped 18 by 18 platform here. Now, as our next step, we will start building a wall at the very edge of the platform. This wall needs to be exactly 4 blocks high. Once that's done, go back into the middle where our hole is and briefly fill it up with 4 temporary blocks. On top of these then, place down 4 fence gates and open them up. You can now delete the temporary blocks again. Okay, next we will need a whole bunch of water. So if you build this in survival mode, I would highly recommend building an infinite water source on the side like this, so you always have enough full buckets. We now want to place down water buckets all around the outside of the wall. Make sure that you don't place the water on the floor, but actually against the wall like I show right here. This will make the water stream flow faster and push the mobs into the middle easier. If you did everything right, then the whole thing should now look somewhat like this. Now it is time to start building our mob spawning platforms. For that, we again need some temporary blocks, with which you want to build a ring around the farm like this that is 1 block higher than the wall. Against those temporary blocks then, we will build 4 platforms that are exactly 6 by 6 blocks. You can then delete the temporary blocks again afterwards. From the top now, it should look exactly like this here. Up next, to avoid spiders from spawning, we will put down 4 carpets on each platform like this, and then what we need next might be a little bit tedious to do, but it's necessary, and that is putting down trapdoors around each and every platform, in the middle as well as on the outsides. This right here is how the full thing should now look like. Finally, all we need to do is build up the outside wall by another 3 blocks in height, and if you wanted to, you could theoretically now already build a roof on top and start using the farm. However, if you want to have much better spawn rates, then you ideally want to make 3 layers of this, each and every one having 2 blocks of space between the spawning platforms. Oh, and by the way, if you want to make the whole thing even better, then what you can also do is, instead of making the base platform 18 by 18, you can make it 26 by 26 with not 4, but 9 spawning platforms. Only little change you need to make for this is that the water collection system at the bottom needs to have 1 stair to ensure that the water flow is long enough to reach the middle. And now, all you gotta do is stand at the bottom right here and take out all the mobs with your sword, collecting a bunch of experience and monster materials in your chest. Now, one resource that you can never have enough of is, of course, gold. And it just so happens that gold farms make for excellent XP farms too. Here's a great and very efficient gold XP farm. But alright, before we start building, we need to build a portal and go into the nether. Once you're there, what you're looking for is a nether wastes biome. Once you found the right biome, what you want to do is build yourself all the way up to the top bedrock layer of the nether, and then we actually want to bug ourselves through the bedrock so that we're standing on top of the nether. To do that, just press F3 again, and right here it shows you which block you're currently looking at. You're now trying to find a bedrock block that shows a height level of 127 if you look at it. And once you have it, just build a ladder next to it, jump onto the ladder, and then use an ender pearl to teleport yourself right through the bedrock layer. You should now be standing on top of the bedrock. The first step would be to build ourselves as high as humanly possible with a 1x1 tower. I would personally recommend using scaffolding because it's just very easy and convenient to build it. This 1x1 tower, you want to build it as high as possible until the game shows you this message right here. That is when you have reached the top building limit of Minecraft, and that is how high we need to be. Once our tower is this high, delete the top block and replace it with a slab. Once you've done that, delete the next 26 blocks under the slab. That should get you down to Y229, and on this height, you now want to build a 4x8 glass block platform. Now that the platform is done, the first thing we want to do is build a nether portal on top of it. Then we want to build our chest and collection system to pick up all the loot, and the way we do this is we place down 4 hoppers at the other end of the platform, 2 facing right down and the other 2 facing into the 2 hoppers from before. On the back 2 hoppers, you're now going to put down 2 slabs, and for the front 2 hoppers, you want to cover them with carpets like I do right here, and then place a double chest in the ground right under them. This is where our loot is going to end up being later. With this being done, the next thing you want to build is, so to speak, the fall pit, the tower into which the piglins will later fall in. The way we do this is actually pretty simple. Just build a 4x3 tower above the back 2 hoppers with the slabs on them and bring it up all the way to the top. And yes, just to be clear, you don't want this tower to be 2x2 blocks inside. It is very important that inside of the tower there is only a 2x1 space. We now successfully built our quote-unquote fall tower, into which the piglins will fall down later, so I would say now it's time to actually start building the first spawning platform. Remember the one slab that we built at the very top of the building height in the beginning? What you want to do now is, under this slab, you want to leave 2 blocks free so that you can just about stand under it, and at this height, you will now start building the first spawning platform out of magma blocks. As for this spawning platform itself, how big you make it is actually kind of up to you. However, there is a maximum size, and that will be 21 blocks away from our fall tower. Now, while you're building this magma block platform, very important tip here, this will save your life because otherwise you're likely going to get killed. As you build it, it can happen that the game starts spawning ghasts, and that's bad because they will start shooting you and probably kill you. To avoid that, what we want to do is build this platform 1 row at a time, and over every 3rd row, you want to build 1 row of bottom slabs. Absolutely make sure that these are bottom slabs, not top slabs, because on top slabs, monsters can spawn, on bottom slabs, they can't. And if you make it like this right here and cover every 3rd row of your platform, then you will be safe from ghasts because the slabs block the spawns. And once this platform is finished, go back to your fall tower and crack the glass on one side to open it up. Up next, what you want to do is remove 3 more glass blocks on the back side and build a couple of temporary blocks exactly like I do right here in the video, because the next thing you need to do is place 1 turtle egg at the very last of the temporary blocks. Zombified piglins get aggroed by turtle eggs, and placing the turtle egg at the opposite side of the pit will lure every piglin that spawns in right into the hole where we want them. But alright, place down a couple of trapdoors exactly the way that I show right here. These trapdoors will make it that the zombified piglins can still see the egg, but they can't reach it so that the egg is protected. Once the egg is placed, delete all the temporary blocks that we just built. And yes, it is very important that you also delete the block right under the egg. The eggs can float, that's no problem. But if you leave the block, then there will be pathfinding issues with the piglins later on. Don't forget to, of course, also place 2 trapdoors on the side of the platform so that the piglins can actually walk over the edge. And as the last step, also place down a couple of fences on the edge of the platform around the fall tower just to make sure that the piglins don't accidentally push each other off the wrong edge. But alright, this would technically already be a functional farm. As long as you stand down here and hit the enemies with a sword, of course it works like any other gold XP farm. But what you can also do is just take a couple of steps back and AFK for a while, and because the area in the pit is so small, after a couple of seconds the piglins are going to start dying automatically, because in Minecraft there's a limit as to how many mobs can stand on 1 block at the same time. But okay. So far, we've only built 1 platform, and that's not ideal because you could have more spawns. So what you can do if you want to expand the farm even further and make it more efficient is take exactly the same platform design that we put on the top and just build more of these platforms. The only important thing here is that each platform can only be 2 blocks high, not higher, otherwise the ghats are gonna spawn in again. And for the best efficiency, I would recommend building either 3 or maybe even 4 platforms, but definitely not more. And last, but definitely not least, let's talk about the GOAT, the most simple and efficient XP farm that we have in Minecraft. First of all, we dig a 3x3 hole that is 12 blocks deep. Once that is done, make sure that the ground and all the walls in that hole are coated with dirt or any other block of your choice. Just make sure that it is not stone, cobblestone, or any other stone-related material. Once you have filled that hole with dirt, you will leave 2 blocks free at the top and place a campfire like this so that it is floating in the air 1 block above the hole, and then take a shovel to switch the campfire off for now. The next step for this experience farm is that we want to build water trenches 3 blocks wide to all 4 sides of our initial build, so that when you put water at the ends of them, whatever falls down will be pushed into the central hole by the water. Next, you want to build a little ring around the campfire. And then lastly, dig another 1x1 hole that is 3 blocks to both sides away from the campfire, make it 11 blocks deep, and then you can sort of dig a tunnel around the corner to loop back into our first tunnel. Then place a fence here and destroy the 2 blocks on the sides so that it is only 1 pole standing. Up next, we need 2 armadillos. In case you don't know, armadillos spawn in steppe biomes, you should find them pretty easy there, and you can lure them to come with you by holding a spider eye in your hand. Now, you want to take those 2 armadillos and breed many more to then lead them all into the little hole of our farm. But alright, the next thing we need is 1 name tag. Once you have the name tag, place down an anvil and put the name tag on it to give it any name of your choice. But why do we need a name tag to begin with? Well, that's what I'm going to show you now. First of all, go back to your farm and create a 2x2 hole right here on the side. Next, wait for night to set in and lure a zombie into that hole. Put the name tag on the zombie so the zombie will never despawn, and then close up the hole with any block of your choice to make sure that the zombie won't die in daylight. And now the final step. What we need is a splash potion of infestation. All you then need to do is switch on the campfire and throw the splash potion into the armadillos, which will then, as you also see, start spawning silverfish like absolute crazy, which are being then pushed in our hole by the water, and all we need to do is go down the ladder into our tunnel to find all the silverfish neatly piled up, and because of the fall damage, you can now easily one-hit them, soaking up all the experience. And if you made it all the way till here, then definitely don't miss this video on 10 simple farms that you can literally build in under 1 minute. See you next time, and until then, craft well.